happy What the Fuchs has returned Tuesday to you and yours and those who choose to celebrate. We're back. We're back after a long hiatus. I mean, my ass barely remembers the feeling of these velvety Facebook Marketplace cushions. Cushions so weak when I first got them, my dad had to when you reinstall, when you put more weight, when you put more heft. I have a big piece of timber under my ass, is what it is. This couch, it's seen better days. I don't know what decade it's from, but it was strapped to my dad's ute and schlepped back to this house, and then a piece of timber was put underneath these velvet cushions, and it does go to show it's all smoke and mirrors. You might think this is a infrastructure. Infrastructure? Breathe in. Welcome to What the Fuchs with Jess Fuchs. Now breathe out.
And scream.
Because here's what's pissed Jess off this week. You look at this couch, you look at me and you go, God, there's a perfect woman. There's a perfect 10. The couch strong, the hair game good. Let me tell you something. My body's falling apart. My nails have never been thinner. I just had to file them down like a feral cat so that I can't scratch anyone's eyes out, because every time I run my fingers through my hair, another nail snaps and gets caught. Because I've been wearing fake acrylic nails for the past 3 months. As long as I haven't been on the airwaves, I've had fake nails because I've been busy, bitch. And we're going to get into some of that. I've got a rash on my chest which popped up within the last 48 hours. And my hair looks good. I mean, I can't tell if it looks good on camera, but it looks absolutely stunning in mirrors, which, here's some knowledge I've accumulated since speaking to you last, and I've missed you dearly. I hope you've missed me too. I got to meet some people in Sydney and Melbourne who said they are fans of the pod, which is crazy. I did have a couple people be like, when's the podcast coming back? And I was like, bitch, you just sat through an hour of me live. Isn't that enough? Just goes to show some people can never get enough of me, a psychopath. So thank you for coming to those shows. But what was okay, this is one piece of knowledge I've learned in the last little while since we spoke last, which is like, apparently you look more accurate to what you look like in the mirror is what you look like. Like, that is more accurate. Sorry, my rash is itchy on my chest. For those who can't see, I'm wearing a fluffy jumper, which is really, I mean, the insulation on the chest rash is not great. I don't know what's going on. You know, I kept it together for the last couple months, and then I think because suddenly the last week has been the first time I've slowed down in months. Now my body's just like a rash, thin nails, a weird cough that's just at nighttime, fluffy hair. That's not usually, my hair isn't usually fluffy. It's usually curly, but suddenly it's got kind of extra layers to it. Like, honestly, I'm like, what is it, a dream catcher? Apparently you look more like what you look like in the mirror than you do in photos, which I don't know if that's good or bad, because I always feel like I look incredible in photos, and then I mean incredible in the mirror. But that's also because when you're in the mirror, you can like hold yourself, like you know what angle to look down at yourself at. You know what I mean? I don't think that's any sort of knowledge we really need to pass on, but isn't that the tone and the vibe of this podcast overall? So what's been going on now? You know, I do have things to, I'm about to sneeze. This is just a back to basics. We are going to get through. I want to talk about manifestation. And if you don't want to hear about men, I'd like for you to turn this podcast off now. I'll give you a minute. But I am going to talk about manifestation. MAN in capitals. Festation, because that's what they are. They're an infestation of the mind and the body and the spirit. But that is what we're going to talk about. That will be the common thread throughout the last couple of months that we're catching up on. So I met a couple of you in Melbourne. Thank you so much for coming. I mean, honestly, I'm back on the airwaves after having to entertain, you know, upwards of 6 and 7 of you a night for 3 weeks almost in Melbourne. So we're hitting some big numbers, girls. And that's a gender neutral use of the word girls. Like, girls, yes, is gendered, but in the way that I'm deciding to use it today, if you are one of the girls, that's a very gender neutral term to me. Anyone can be one of the girls. You can be a girl, you can be whatever else you want, but it's about the spirit of the girls. It's about what you bring to the table. Anyone who came to a show in Melbourne, you were one of the girls. You supported me as a woman. No, that's not true. You supported me as a girl. You supported me as one of the girls. Let's get into Melbourne. Let's really get into Melbourne. It's been enough. You know when something bad happens and then enough time passes that you forget that it was bad and it was bad? Yeah. It's still being remembered as bad to me, which tells you it was really bad. But so I went with very little expectation. Now, if you aren't from Australia, if you're not in the world of comedy at all, if you don't know anything about it, the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, it is a slog and a half. And I knew that going into it. I had very low expectations in terms of number turnout. You have to sell all your own tickets and you're trying to compete with like much bigger, more established names and all of that. I knew all of this. The first week was terrible and I was sending out some pretty bad SOS, I'm about to KMS myself messages to my nearest and dearest. I was so mentally sad. I couldn't even get on close friends' Instagram and rant. And that is, the symptoms. There was no heartbeat. I was flatlining mentally in that week. I was like, just get through it. And I was counting down the shows. But you know what? The show itself has come a long way. So the show is called Sex Strokes Women. If you'll recall, I probably told you a bit about it before. And the plan was I was going to do 9 in Melbourne and then I do 3 in Sydney and then I'm going to go overseas. We'll talk about that. So I did all 9. I did 4 in one week and then 5 in the other. But on top of that, because I didn't have an audience in Melbourne, because I don't have a massive platform, because I don't have a manager or an agent, I was doing everything on my own, part of the expectation, we knew that. So on top of that, I got to Melbourne maybe 3 or 4 nights before the festival started, and I was doing 3 to 5 shows a night where I was bouncing around the city, performing on other people's shows, giving out flyers and trying to drum up some business. I was, working them streets, I'm not above it. I'm humble as hell. So it was just very tiring because I was doing like 4 or 5 shows a night. Then we get to my show and I'm doing my show, which had lots of ups and downs because a big part of the show was that it's interactive. I wanted the show to be super interactive this year because I wanted people who come to get a sense of like what my favorite kind of comedy is, which has crowd work. It's got stories and anecdotes and I'm like shit talk. It's shit talking. Like the truth is I wanted to just be able to night after night come and shit talk with an audience. And some of the audience were coming because they knew me, whether it's from the podcast or they've seen me before, or they've seen me at a comedy club or whatever it was. And then the people who weren't coming that did take a chance or got brought with a friend, the chances are they probably were like half cool with what they're getting because the name of the show is quite outrageous to, someone who's going to clutch their pearls. So if you come to a show called Sex Strokes and then suddenly I'm like a little bit interactive, I don't think it's such a like shocking stretch to be like, oh, okay, I get it. Some of the nights were like 9 people and were so ridiculous and fun. And then some of the nights were like 50 people. And it was like, I was like, there is no pulse in this room. It was the stress of just getting in a groove and being frustrated by low ticket sales, and the festival overall had lower ticket sales than other years apparently because cost of living and who gives a fuck. I am trying to get us to the point where we talk about manifesting with the emphasis MAN, men, plural, a gaggle of men, a cohort of, I was going to say a cohort of cunts, but maybe that's more the feminine term. A cohort of cunts. What could we call a group of men? A gaggle of geese. A gaggle of geese. I wonder if it always has to be a cohort of cunts. I love cohort of cunts. A friend of mine, and we aren't going to laugh at this. We are just going to kind of just face the fact that this is a conversation I have had in the real world. A friend of mine once told me that she wrote a manifestation list, MAN being capitals. So she wrote a list of all the things she wants in a male partner. No worries. I can't believe we're in a place where we have to do things like that, but yet we are. I'm big on writing lists of picking things up from the shops, of what tasks need to be done. I can't fathom myself sitting down and writing a list of all the qualities in a man that I want. That seems so funny. Maybe I'll do it as homework and talk about it. And talk about it with you guys. That's not even what I want to talk about. I want to talk about these guys who So the first week in Melbourne, we're jumping around because I just don't even know how to break the news. So the first week in Melbourne was so rough, but then by the second week, I'd fully given up. I'd just embraced the fact that it was a terrible experience, that it was really tough, that I wasn't getting many ticket sales. And of the ticket sales, some shows were great, some shows were bad. Even within that, we know that was all coming down the line, but the show was taking a lot longer to develop than I thought. So my show was at 6:40, and then on Sundays it was an hour earlier. So 5:30 on a Sunday, when you just want to be meal prepping and sitting at home, not hearing the word fisting within 10 minutes, I come out and I'm like, hi, like all outgoing and whatever. People aren't even drinking. People are stone cold sober. Fine. So all of that, what a mess. By the second week, I just had blacked out, disassociated from my body and gone, Jess, you've got 1 week. You're going to get through your 5 shows and then you're going to go home to Sydney where you don't have to speak to anyone, see anyone, or do anything about this ever again. And my show was slowly getting stronger in terms of the structure, and the jokes were getting stronger because when I went to Melbourne, it was good. I had a rough structure of how I want to move through the hour with my audience, but really it needed a lot of moving around to be like, all right, audiences need a little bit of time to get comfortable before we get into like a lot of stuff. So by the second week, with everything going on, with all of the ups and downs of the show and being tired and, you know, being in a crappy apartment and whatever because I was at an Airbnb, I gave up. And I let go and I let God. And then I just had a lot of fun. And one of the themes in my life for 2025 is I've given up on the apps. Now the piece of the pie of getting off the apps is, okay, now what do you do to meet people? So you've gotten off the apps. Now you're trying to meet a sexual partner or partners or whatever you're into if you are trying to meet people. Some of my friends, they get off the apps and they go, I'm out. I need 6 months to be out of here. I don't know very many young people who meet people in real life anymore. There are some exceptions. Every single night at my show, I would say to an audience, give me a cheer if you're with someone who you met in real life who you're still in a relationship with. And it would always be, oh yeah, I met this person through a friend at a party. Let me be clear with all you cunts. I don't have the capacity to go to a party. And yeah, that's my problem. And yeah, I should prioritize that more. But that's just the reality. Every single person that met in real life in the era of online dating apps met at a party through a friend. Now, I don't know about you, but I have about 3 friends in change. So we're in a bit of a pickle about meeting in real life. However, I got off the apps because I was like, this is just too miserable. I just can't. I need a time out from the apps because I just need to stare at a wall and just rock back and forth gently when I think about being back on Tinder or Hinge or Bumble or TaskRabbit. I mean, whatever you're on, I'm stressed for you. So I got off the apps maybe just before I went to Melbourne. And I'll tell you what, these men were clamoring. They could not get on top of me fast enough. I think that when I got off the apps, I thought to myself, it's the year of meeting in real life. That's the soft plan, is we're going to meet in real life. I don't know how, because I don't leave the house unless it's for comedy, and people are much too intimidated to come up to a woman after a comedy show. Shout out to the lesbians in the DMs, because I get a lot of people, like, honestly, the number of DMs I've received from just brave, bold, beautiful gays just wanting to catch up after a show, and I say thank you so much. Even though I overtly in my show try to let people know that I'm not gay, they still give it a red hot crack, and to that I say, girls, good on you. That's that warrior spirit, that's that never give up, that's that can do, and I love to see it, and they are loyal lesbians who come to shows, and I appreciate the fuck out of that. But men do not approach after shows. That is just something that me and many other women have discussed. That is just not a thing. If they are going to come up to you after a show, it's to try to big dog you and to try to like give you a joke or a punch up to one of your jokes, which I don't know if that's their way of flirting, but if it is, I mean, the toxic masculinity, crisis of masculinity problem that all these people are yapping about is way worse than I thought, because there's no way that you coming up to me, after a show trying to give me a punch up on my joke is you trying to flirt. And if it is, seek help. Please, God, get yourself some help. Figure out your relationship with your mother and then come back to comedy circles. We don't need you there in the meantime. So in the second week, with my guard down and my tits up, I was ready to just take on the world. And I wasn't even thinking about men because I had all my homosexuals orbiting around me. So I was really swamped that week. There was all the gays in town. We all had so much to do. So we were going for lunches and for dinners and stuff. Now, this is just one anecdote of in real life meeting a man. And it was 90s rom-com style. And I'll tell you what, for a few brief hours, it reignited my hope in men. In finding a man, in meeting a man, meeting anybody in real life. That's for a few hours. I was floating on a 1950s cloud of pre-internet, going to a dance and having a man across the way point at you and then you do the shuffle and slide. I don't really know much about any time before 1993, which is the year I was born. So me and some gays, we go for lunch. We had a big night the night before because every time everyone finishes their shows, you usually meet at a location and you go out and you have a bit of fun. There's like a main artist bar, which is where all the artists and comedians and actors and whoever's performing, whatever they're doing at the festival, they come there and they hang out. We had gone out the night before. We were having a little brunch lunch to decompress and just chat and catch up with a bunch of gays. I come in, yeah, I look incredible. Was I planning to? No, I don't know what happened that day. Hair was looking absolute toit. Had red lipstick on, was wearing like a cougar, what's the pattern? The pattern that cougars love to wear. Not leopard. Leopard? Maybe I was wearing leopard. A little leopard shirt, a leather blazer because it was Melbourne, so it's a little bit chilly, some sexy pants. I was feeling myself. We go to this restaurant and we sit down. Anyway, I'm with my gays. So yeah, the dial's at 10. I don't know what to tell you. You got to entertain them when you got them all in one place. That's the point. Now, what I will offer as a counter is all my homosexuals. It's like that scene in White Lotus where she's like, these gays, they're trying to kill me. These homosexual men try to kill me for their own entertainment. And in some ways, I appreciate the fuck out of the audacity that these men have. And in other ways, I go, fuck you, because you're really now hurting me. So we sit down and there's one, two, three, four, five, six of them, one of me. And over comes this like hot waiter. And because I'm with them, I'm not really paying attention to other men. I've got my group. I need to focus on these boys, right? So I whip around and they're all ordering cocktails because it was brunch. And I said I want something like orange juice, but that's too embarrassing to order. Now, I don't think that's cheeky, but this man thought it was hilarious. I was like, oh, okay. I don't even notice yet that he's obsessed with me. And he was like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then he makes a recommendation and I'm like, okay, cool. It's so stupid. And now I'm at the head of the table, of course. Big woman with my homosexuals. I have a joke that I'm working on at the moment now, and it's still being worked upon, but it is this concept of a fat woman always has homosexual men in her orbit. I am the center of their universe because I have surplus of energy. Gays kind of are obsessed with me. Thin women who are kind of pretty and just like always have like straight men dripping off them, they orbit around homosexuals because they want homosexuals to like be like slay queen to them because they need it. Us fat women, we don't need it. Take it or leave it. I've got enough personality for all of us. And so the gay men, it's like catnip, like they can't get enough of it. And this was proof for that. So I'm at the head of the table, matriarch of this gaggle of gays. I'm flirting with this man. I whip around to look at my boys as the waiter has walked off, and they're all open-mouthed staring at me. And they're like, what the fuck? And I was like, what? And they were like, Jess, the two of you were feral to each other. And I was like, no, I just wanted orange juice that was not orange juice because it's embarrassing. And they were like, no, the sexual tension was palpable. And I was like, no, I could tell we were vibing, but like, it's not. They were like, what the fuck? So then he comes back over later to take our order and again, flirting. And this time I'm not going to lie to you, I'm performing for these boys because they're having the time of their life. So I'm being really extra with this man. This man is tall. He's got thick arms. He's hot as fuck. I'm pretty impressed with myself. Thank you very much. So then I order something and then I forget to tell him that I'm allergic to potato. But the food doesn't have potato in it from the menu. And the homosexuals were gaggling, la 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 la, blah blah blah. And I try my food and I go, there's potato in this. So I call him over. I said, so sorry. Is there potato in this? Can you just double check? And he was like, no, there's definitely no potato in it. And I was like, are you sure? He walks away and one of the homosexuals goes, you've just really ruined the vibe. Like, you were so annoying. And I was like, what do you mean? I just can't shit myself for 3 days if there's potato in this. So I ruined the vibe of the whole hang. And I said, no, listen, we're fine. We're actually fine. We're still flirting. And he comes back over and he's like, there's no potato. And I say to him, I'm so sorry, but these boys think that I've ruined the energy of the lunch. Can you just tell them that you and I are doing fine? And he's like, yeah, we're doing fine. And I was like, slay bitch. So anyway, lunch continues. We're all having a good chat. Everyone's kind of exchanging stories of nonsense that's happening in Melbourne during the festival and what's going on in our lives. And at the very end, they are like, okay, cool. What's your plan to get this guy's number? And I say, there is no plan. I don't know what to do. There's 6 of you watching me. And this is where we kick into action. Now, these men are going, if you don't give him your number or if you don't speak to him, we're going to leave your number. I said, you don't need to do my bidding. I'm a 31-year-old old woman. I'll be doing this myself if I have to. They're like, you have to. And I was like, I think that he was just trying to be playful because there's a bunch of men here and it's the dynamic. And they were like, it doesn't fucking matter. So they devised a plan, which is we leave our seats, we go to pay, and I will be the second last person to pay. I'm like, at this point, if we're getting a pecking order of who's paying and swiping their cards, it's too late. The job is gone. So the plan was, I go second last, one of them goes last, and if I don't get his number, they will leave my number. I said, oh my God. I said, fine. I can't get any of you to shut the fuck up. Fine. I go to pay. Everyone's paying their bills and standing about 1 meter away, 2 meters away, near the door from where we pay. Now it's my turn. I step up and I turn back and there's like a tableau of gays dripping off each other, like literally holding on to each other in a little semicircle, watching me and this man. And I'm going, please leave the room. I can't flirt with an audience. There's clinical lighting in this Mexican restaurant. There's about 7 people around him who are on the other side of the bar doing their job. And now we've got this tableau of homosexuals. This is ridiculous. So I go up and I'm like, there's no pen. I was gonna write my fucking thing down. Everything's electronic these days. This is the other nonsense. How do you expect me to meet someone in real life when I can't write my name, number down on a piece of paper or a receipt or a napkin? Everything is fucking digital, so I can't smoothly ask, do you have any he goes, do you want your receipt emailed to you? No, bitch, I want it printed so I can put my name and a little kissy emoji on the fucking thing. Kissy emoji, bitch, get offline, touch grass. I'm like, oh my God. So I go up to him, go to pay. I'm aware that there are all these men watching me. And he's like, so what are you up to the rest of the day? And I'm like, okay, we're locked in, bitch. I go, oh, well, actually, I've got a show tonight. I'm a comedian. He goes, oh, really? You're here for the festival? Yes. I go, do you see much comedy? And he goes, I've never actually been to any shows. And I say, well, why don't you come and see a show? Do you want to come see my show? And he was like, oh, I actually have to work tonight. And the next day he goes, and this must have been Saturday. And he goes, oh, I'm actually off on Monday. But I was leaving Monday morning. So I said, oh, I'm actually from Sydney. I'm leaving Melbourne on Monday morning. But do you want to see a show after you finish work? And he goes, I only finish work at 11 o'clock. I said, oh, well, my show finishes. Like, I had my show and then I had 3 other shows that night. So I said, well, my show will be finishing at 11 o'clock. But if you want to, I'm going to then go to this bar where a lot of comedians go and hang out if you want to come there. And he goes, yep, that sounds good. I'll meet you. And I was like, great. And I was like, I'll meet you there at 11. So we exchanged names. Yes, I should have exchanged numbers. Don't look at me like that. Don't think about me like that. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, we should have got each other's numbers, but you know what? What's behind me? Say it with me all together. A gaggle of homosexuals staring at us. They didn't think to give me some privacy. You know why? Because for them, my sexual life is fodder, is a joke. It's fun for them to watch me have to fail or try to succeed. And you know what? I won't apologize to any of you who are listening to me, actually, because you can blame it on them. And I will happily, if you reach out, I will happily give you the name, number, and Instagrams of every single man that was there that day, and you can personally get them in trouble for their behavior. So we make this plan. So cute. That is so cute. And I was literally like, oh my God, that's kind of beautiful. Like the idea of fate. Like if at 11 o'clock we both show up, we're going to to be at this place together. We'll hang out, we'll have a drink, we'll have a good time. Anyway, all my shows for the night go fine. My last show, though, starts 15 minutes late, so I don't get off stage until 11:05. The homosexuals are all with me. They've obviously gathered because they're all excited to see if this man shows up. It's about 11:05. We're a 10-minute walk away from the venue. They're kind of like screaming at me, "Do you even want to have sex with this man?" I said, "That's none of your business." They said, "Yes, it is." I said, "Yes, it is." We get there by 11:15. We're in the upstairs area, which is like a closed off area for the act. And we decide to go downstairs, which is like the general open area. And we're watching the show that's going on. He never shows up. Maybe he did. Maybe he was standing outside. We never see him again. We never hear from him again. You know, what are you going to do? And that is just one anecdote. There are a couple others of situations that happened in Melbourne that were kind of half-baked or fully baked or none of your business baked. But I do think the main thing I wanted to articulate is I do think that when you manifest, things can happen because I don't leave the house, but I think Melbourne, I was leaving the house more because I was out amongst the people. I was doing shows and going to the like, you know, bars and whatever. So that was positive. So I'm hoping that, and this brings me beautifully into my next thing of an update. So the update is there is no update, I guess. That's so true. But that transitions beautifully into, you know, this year I did really want to try to find a bit more work-life balance and enjoy myself a bit more in terms of like going out more. Not just going out, I'm not saying going out clubbing, whatever, I don't give a fuck. But going out and just enjoying myself more, you know, I'm 21, I'm young, I'm wild, I'm free. That wasn't a Freudian slip. I am 31 technically, but I've decided that I'm just going to be 21, so I don't care about what you think. I will be not moving, but I'm going to go to the UK. So I leave Sydney in about 5 weeks. I'm doing one final big show in Sydney. If you're a Sydney person and you haven't seen me, or if you're a Sydney person and you have seen me, send others, because I have one final show that I have been asked to do, because my other shows, if you did see those in Sydney, thank you for coming. They sold out 2 of the 3 shows. The 2 of the 3 sold out really well, and then the other one was like half sold out, which is great because it was like a boring Thursday at 9 o'clock at night, which is like, oh, painful. I am going to see if the UK is the vibe, if I want to live there. So if any of you live in London or have lived in London or have been to London enough that you have any recommendations for neighbourhoods, for cafes, for vintage shops, for whatever, if you're in London, come and message me. I don't know anyone there really. I am excited to be in a new city that you kind of have to leave the house. You have to go out and do things. And like, I'll be touring around and doing stand-up, and I've got a few shows in like Liverpool and Manchester and London, like the city and stuff like that. But being in a new place, like, you gotta leave the house, you gotta make friends, you gotta do shit that's kind of exciting and different. So I'm excited to be out of my depth. I think Sydney, it's that whole thing of like, when you feel a bit comfortable with something, it's like, that's so positive, but it's time to shake things up a little, because otherwise it's so easy to just feel very comfortable in a space. And if that's what you want, I think that's fabulous. But I think for me, I am someone who like thrives when your back's up against the wall, which I don't know what that says about my childhood or just me in general, and we're not really going to unpack that, why I like chaos, but that's none of your fucking business, mine or my therapist. We're not getting into that. That's not what I pay her for. So I'm really excited. I think London will be really good and will be just like a fun new challenge of like leaving the house. I really appreciate the existence of dating apps, and any of you that have met on dating apps, including like my sister and her husband, they met on Tinder. Hey, they met on Tinder. They've got kids. They've got a kid. She's pregnant with twins. That'll be a whole podcast in and of itself. I'm becoming a mother to 3 all of a sudden when I didn't want to. I just wanted to say to anybody who's on the apps but is struggling with them, keep going if that's what you want, but don't feel like you have to. I really think my trip in Melbourne, and then since Melbourne, you know, I did Sydney Festival and have just been a bit more proactive about like making sure I'm like going out, or even just if you meet someone and you're like, I think there's a vibe, like just pursue it a little bit, like put yourself out there a little bit. It's not going to always land, like something won't necessarily happen from it, but I just think I felt a bit more inspired this year about being like out in the real fucking world a little bit and like just having fun and not giving a shit about if you put yourself out there and it doesn't end up. Like, maybe I don't even have the time to get into some other anecdotes. Maybe we'll do that next week. But I've put myself out there a bunch recently, and some have worked out and some haven't. And either way, I'm kind of like, LOL, it's something to tell the girls. And by girls, I mean all of you. Gender neutral term of girls. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to give you a general life update. and talk about manifesting. Now, I don't think I'm ever going to do a manifestation list of everything or the qualities I want in a man. I think that would make me want to scoop my eyeballs out with my acrylic nails. And because my nails are so thin and weak at the moment, I can't get those installed. Therefore, I can't write a manifestation list because I have no way to self-harm. And I just, maybe acrylic nails is my form of self-harm because my fingers feel pretty weak. Like, honestly, you touch my nail beds and I'm saying ouchie is what it is. I think that's everything. I don't have anything else to tell you guys. That's me on a helium balloon. That's me getting crazy out in the real world doing helium balloons at the bar mitzvah. If you guys got anything you want to talk about, if you want to tell me anything about your lives, you know this is a two-way street. I know you think it's a one-way, but in my mind, every time I speak, you're responding. Just so you know what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you talk right now. That's you guys saying stuff back to me. So DM me if you live in London. DM me if you came to a Sydney show and you enjoyed it, and then you're going to send some other people. Or if you want to come again, I guess I could even, maybe I'll do a discount ticket if you've been to the Sydney show and you actually want to come again because you know it's interactive and whatever. Feel free to message me and I'll see what I can do about getting like a half off ticket, and then you can bring other people who have never been. I don't know. I'm making this shit up as you go. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to me. Welcome back to you. Welcome back to the fucking girls. We're out here, bitches. Bitch is not gender neutral. Bitches is very specific to who I'm talking to, and I mean in the most positive sense of the word. A man does not deserve to be called a bitch. He doesn't deserve it because bitch is such a empowering term when it's used positively by someone like me. Anyway, see you guys. You know what? I haven't said this in a long time. See you next week. Chat soon. Over and out. Love ya. Bye.